This episode is brought to you by KPMG. Making an impact is how KPMG helps make the difference. KPMG applies advanced tools and strategic thinking to convert data into actionable knowledge and deliver value by improving performance through transformation, modernizing processes with technology, harnessing the power of data, navigating complex M&A transactions, and enhancing trust among stakeholders. Go to kpmg.us/advisory to learn more. KPMG. Make the difference.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. When you visit the doctor, you probably hand over your insurance, your ID, and contact details. It's just one of the many places that has your personal info. And if any of them accidentally expose it, you could be at risk for identity theft. LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second. If you become a victim, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
We transition to the kicking game. We punt out of the end zone. And then we move out and we punt every day. We think it's the most important special team. Usually it starts off practice. On Tuesday, we do it at the end of our goal line segment, if you want to call it that, because we can just turn around, our punt team lines up, and we'll kick out of the end zone.
Welcome to Coach and Coordinator Network's National Coach of the Week show, presented by Modern Football Technology. Each week, we recognize coaches who lead their programs with excellence and earn big wins on the field. This week, we honor Gary Swenson of Valley High School in Iowa. Coach Swenson is one of the top 20 winningest active coaches in the country, with an incredible record of 409 wins and 130 losses in his 51st year on the sidelines. His career includes 6 state championships, and his Valley squad was the state runner-up in 2024. Today, we celebrate their victory and leadership and consistency that defines his program. The show is presented by Modern Football Technology, the real-time analytics platform trusted by top programs nationwide. With Modern Football, coaches make faster, smarter decisions on game day and save hours each week breaking down data. To see how Modern Football can give your staff the analytics edge, visit modernfootball.com.
Stepping up. Bang! Bang! It's time to level up your game. Introducing the all-new ESPN app. All of ESPN, all in one place. Your home for the most live sports and the best championship moments.
The electricity is palpable.
Step up your game with no annual contract required. It's the ultimate fan experience. Level up for more on the ESPN app or at stream.espn.com. Sign up now.
We're back with another episode of our National Coach of the Week presented by Modern Football Technology. And joining me this week is the head coach at Valley High School in Des Moines, Iowa, Gary Swenson. Coach, it's great to have you back here on the podcast, and congratulations on being named our Week 2 National Coach of the Week.
Thanks, Keith. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Coach, you guys have the unique opportunity to begin your season with your rival, and it really doesn't get bigger in Iowa than Dowling Catholic versus Valley. It's a great football game year in and year out, and we've had you and Coach Tom Wilson on before in our years back. We did a rivalry series, so we talked about this rivalry before, but you guys step right into it in week 1 playing your rival. What's it like getting your team ready for that right off the bat?
Well, I think it raises everybody's level of concern in the off-season and in your summer prep and your fall camp, because it's a game that carries a little more importance to the stakeholders in our school community and their school community. And I mean, gosh, we just played them last November in the semis, and then you turn around and open with them. But I love it. It's a very healthy rivalry. The coaching staffs have a lot of respect for each other. You know, our campuses are only 5 minutes apart, so everybody knows each other. And both schools have had a lot of success in all their athletic programs, not just football. So it's the old saying, all sports are local. It's a big deal to us and our programs, but outside of this area in Iowa, it's probably has a pretty limited shelf life, but it was fun. It's good. The kids love it. If you can get through it and win, it's a big deal. But like I told our kids after the game, enjoy it for 24 hours. And then you got to go back to work because we play there's just good programs in central Iowa right now. The population growth here has been off the charts in this part of the state, and it's fostered really good high schools that have great athletic programs. And I think the level of high school play here gets overlooked at times. I think we play really good high school football, and I know the coaches that I compete with on a weekly basis, they coach anywhere. They're outstanding coaches. So it makes it fun. I enjoy it. And I think Friday night was a great win for us. But we know at the end of the year, we usually play them a second time. And, that game Friday will be a distant memory when you get about mid-season. So you got to move. You got to move forward.
Yeah, the nature of the season, it does move so quickly. Before you know it, we're into middle of the season and then looking at the playoffs and then looking back and say, man, where did it go? But for you, you've been doing this a long time, 30 some years at Valley. Does this game still carry that same kind of emotion for you as it did the first game you coached in, this first rivalry with Dowling Catholic?
Yeah, no question. I mean, that's why we do what we do, and that's what I love about high school football. As we were just talking about USA football before we went on, and a good friend that I met in my involvement there, Steve Specht, I was doing a heads up clinic one time when he was speaking. I heard him use a phrase, hey, we own a day of the week. That's what high school football is all about, Friday night. And so, when the lights click on Friday night, it's a big deal to the coaches and the players and the parents, other students that are at the game. And when it's a big rivalry, it just makes it that much more fun. And if you talk to any building principal across the country, they would say how important it is for the school year to get off right, to have a successful football team, because that is an event that everybody centers around to start their school year. So when you can have a good program and win your share and play in games like we played, we had probably 7,000 fans there. That's a good crowd for a high school football game. It was exciting.
Yeah, it does carry a lot of meaning, a lot of significance in the communities to school districts. I know my very first head coaching job, when I got that job, the superintendent talked to me and they had a school levy coming up. And he said, we feel that the success of our football season will help the school levy. And I was like, geez, no pressure there, especially since the school hadn't had a winning season. This was 2000. They hadn't had a winning season since 1983. And I was like, oh boy. Now, fortunately, we did put together a winning season. It didn't necessarily help the school levy, but at least we upheld our part. And, I think that's how this game can impact the community. And especially when you think of something big like your rivalry and the challenges it presents. So from a practical standpoint for coaches out there, especially guys maybe in that first year, facing a rival, let's talk a little bit about the prep for these kind of games. You've done it a long time. You've been in this rivalry a long time, so you know how to do it. How are you able to prepare your players, though, especially those ones maybe who will be under the Friday night lights for the first time playing in this rivalry?
Well, the so-called pressure they might feel when they get to game time, sometimes they just have to deal with that. I think as you go about your day-to-day work and prep for that first week, especially if it's a big game like this one was, high school kids relish routine. They want to know what to expect. They really don't, I don't think, respond well in practice to surprises. I tell my coaches all the time, look, don't drill to entertain, drill to improve, drill fundamentals of the game that will win for us. In our game, the tools of the trade are blocking and tackling. So you center everything back to that. And then the schemes that you use, whether they are the spread on offense or some type of ground and pound defensively, you fit your schemes around your talent, and then you try to get the kids to buy in to being able to play with confidence and don't be scared. I always tell them the thing I told them Friday night before we went out was what the keys I thought that would win for them when it came to possession time, mistakes, penalties, all the things that you cover. But the actual prep going into a game like that, you don't focus on it. You don't talk about it all the time. You bring it up. the kids know they're going to be keyed up enough. You don't have to come off with anything magic. And then I think when you get to game night, what you say, words do matter to high school kids. So, what you say leading up on the night of the game, whether it's before you go out at any meetings or team meal you might have, those things matter. I think you want to organize what you're going to say to try to tell the players with some passion that this game is a big deal to them and it's a big deal to you and the coaches and a big deal to your opponent. So give them the keys to how to win the game, and then you got to turn them loose and let them go. The other thing, I just tell them, hey, if you can't enjoy this, then why are we doing it? It should be fun. This is high school football. It's not a job. It's not something that should be looked at like it's drudgery. This should be one of the best times of their lives. So you have to create an atmosphere that fosters enjoyment. And then you got to weather the Friday nights that aren't fun. There's Friday nights it's not fun standing on that sideline, and the disappointment is going to be there. So deal with it. Be consistent in how you approach both ends of the spectrum when it comes to the emotions of a 17, 18-year-old high school kid.
I think the other challenge of this kind of game, especially early in the year, is not only the preparation for it, but putting it aside, enjoying it and then moving it on. And, I think whether you win or lose, and maybe it's even tougher if you lose the game to be able to move on to that next one. But I guess recommendations for coaches on how do we turn the page? What's the best way, win or lose, to move on from this game and keep moving on with the season?
So we bring our kids on, we give them Saturday off, and then we come back Sunday at about 1:00. And, the nice thing now with technology, they've already seen the film. They've already received things from coaches, from an evaluation tool. We have our kids there about 2 hours. So Friday night when they left, I encouraged them to relish the victory, enjoy it. But I told them that Sunday when they came in, we were on to the next week, But as we watched the film, we really tried to, I know each position coach in his meeting brought up the good things about it. Okay, this was awesome. And here's where we got to improve. I've learned that in the post-game meeting on the field on Friday night, before you turn them loose, sometimes the perception you had of the game is skewed once you look at the film. I've gotten after our kids before, because I thought we didn't. Then I look at the film and I think, that was really pretty good, or I've told them that they're all it, and then I look at the film and I'm thinking, how did we win that game? So you've got to find some common ground, some middle of the road from an emotional standpoint, that when they come back in Sunday, there's no big letdown like, oh, shoot, we got practice today. We got practice tomorrow. We got, you want them to go back to work with the idea, hey, what we did last week mattered. Everything we did leading up to that game made a difference. That's how we won the game. It was not happenstance or luck. So they want to know what to expect. And I think our kids do. It's pretty routine. We want them to enjoy it. But like I said, our coaches aren't there to entertain. They're there to instruct and make you improve and take you someplace where on your own, you're not getting there without them. So I think that they need to know what to expect.
Let's take a quick break to hear about modern football technology from Sean Grady at Geneva High School. They added modern football technology in the playoffs last year, and it made a big difference to them. Here's what he had to say. What advice or what would you say to a coach who's maybe on the fence right now on if in-game analytics is something they really want to get into and if it could help their program?
My biggest advice for anyone is just, even if you dip your toe in, start somewhere. Track a front, track a run concept, track a play, and see if you like it. You might think it's too much data, it's going to give you too much information, but at the end of the day, you're going to decide what works for you. and you're going to get the data out that you want to get from it. And modern football does a great job of allowing you to use this in-game analytics and allows you to pick and choose what you want to get. If you don't want all that information, that's totally fine. Okay, but there might be some piece of information that's going to allow you to get into a call late in a game, in an important game, that could be the difference between winning and losing. And you don't want to be thinking back and saying, hey, if we just had known we were always getting this, or we were always getting this front in this personnel earlier, maybe we would have won that game. And us as a coaching staff have felt that in the past where, hey, if we had known this earlier in the first quarter, I feel like we would have been able to make an adjustment. And now we're able to do that in game at a faster pace, as opposed to waiting until halftime or seeing it after the game, watching on film, being mad about it.
It's never too late to add analytics to your workflow. With Modern Football Technology's easy-to-use interface on tablets on game day, plus their quick onboarding process, they can have you up and running by the end of the week. Be sure to book a demo with them to see how it works and get going. Do that at modernfootball.com or check the show notes for a link. The other aspect of this particular opponent for you is, like you said, and you do quite often face them again in the postseason. Also, another thing that presents challenges, seeing a team for the second time. When you're seeing a team for that second time, and again, that always happens playoff time, what do you think affects maybe the preparation for that now, knowing that, hey, they know us pretty well, we know them pretty well. Yes, it was some ways back in the season, but we got to do it again. What's the approach there for you?
Well, a lot of things affect that. One is neither team's going to be the same because you've probably had some injuries. You maybe are missing a key contributor from the first week. You might have had some players come in to play prominent roles that didn't play much in that first game. And I think you have to know that both teams are different. But the other thing is, gosh, okay, so that's week, might be the 11th game. Look at the hundreds of snaps we've probably looked at of each other all the way leading up to that game. So there's really no secret. I tell our guys, we're not going to try and reinvent the wheel here. Okay, what we did in week one, if it worked, we'll try to play on that, maybe with a different look. I mean, you got to obviously change your approach to pre-snap adjustments, motion shifts. You're going to run the same stuff. You just got to dress it up and make it look different. And then defensively, you just have to be able to adapt to what they're going to change from what you knew week one. And then try to isolate, okay, who do we have to stop here to get this done? And the big thing, the thing that probably turned it for us Friday were two special teams plays at the end of the game. We kicked I don't know what it was, 35-yard field goal. Well, our kicker had shanked one from in close previous to that. So it wasn't like anybody was feeling great about that, but he went out and knocked it in. And then we had to take a safety, which made it 20-19. We were backed up inside of our one, and then we had to kick off. Okay, so we did that. Our kicker had a great kickoff. We got a stop, I think, through a interception, and we thought we could kneel down and kill the clock. We had it figured out. The guys up top said, nope. We had a receiver line up with his mouth guard hanging off of his face mask. So we had a procedural penalty, which didn't allow us to kill the clock. So we were backed up and we ended up taking the safety. And then we ended up eventually having to punt with about 19 seconds left. And we're back clear up having to do it. And our punter had the kick of his life. I mean, he probably kicked it 45, 50 yards in the air with hang time. And where they caught it, they only had enough time for one snap. So we were able to close it out. But things that had happened earlier in the game with both those kids wouldn't have inspired much confidence from anybody. But we sent them back out there and they delivered. So the special teams, the hidden yardage in the special teams is so big. I mean, it was kind of a standoff, I think, from a special team standpoint until then. But we had two big plays at the end of the game that we don't win if those things don't happen.
But I got to ask you about the mechanics of taking a safety. I don't think we've ever talked about that in the thousands of episodes on this podcast of how to take a safety. And I remember back, it seems pretty easy, but there are things that the details of every single play can make a difference. So the guy who really taught me the details of it was a coach named Dave Parrish, which is Stan Parrish's brother. God rest his soul. Stan's brother taught me about that. Little things like, hey, he would teach the punter, when you catch that ball, I want you to put it in the arm towards the goal line, and I want you to be going down that end or towards the end line. I want you to go down that end line and then step out. He made the point. I don't want it inside because they might be able to strip that ball before right at the last second. So it seems easy, but I think like anything, coach, and I'm sure you still have to practice those things. We can't assume that our guys are going to know what we know and carry that through on Friday night. So how do you guys go about that small procedural thing of taking a safety?
Well, Tuesdays, we'll do it today. We have a red zone period. We kind of service each other, offense and defense. And then we transition to the kicking game. We punt out of the end zone. And then we move out and we punt every day. We think it's the most important special team. Usually it starts off practice. On Tuesday, we do it at the end of our goal line segment, if you want to call it that, because we can just turn around, our punt team lines up, and we'll kick out of the end zone. We'll move up a couple yards, give them about 4 or 5 kicks. But one of the things we will do and talk about is, what we call it give safety. Well, what controls that is, do you have to burn a few seconds before you step out the back of the end zone? Are you going to try to milk any more time? See, for us Friday, we were inside the 2-yard line. Our punter lines up at 14 yards. So we were heels right on the end line. And we just told him when he went out, we said, catch it, pause for a count, and then get out of there and just step out the back of the end zone. We didn't want to get cute. We didn't want any chance of anything negative happening. And he did fine. The key is, can you get this off? You botch the snap. But it worked fine. And I think that can be simple, or you can make it really complicated and hard. For us, it was just, hey, catch it, secure it, wait 1 count, step out the back. And we protected it. So he didn't have guys right in his grill. I think they were set up for a return. So it worked out fine.
Are there any other of those rare situations, things that don't come up every game, that you make sure that you cover every week?
Onside kicks. Trying to convert one, or trying, if you want to call it your hands team. Do you have a separate group of players you put in? We lost in the state championship game last year because the team that beat us executed an onside kick. We had our hands team there. We had it lined up just like we had worked all year. And the kid made an awesome kick into the boundary right in front of our bench. It took a bounce. Like I told the player, I said, it would have taken us 2,000 tries to make that bounce happen to show you what it was going to look like. And we lost a game, not just a game, the state championship game, because we couldn't convert the recovery of an onside kick. Yet we had worked it all year. And I think the thing is, we had worked how to line up. We hadn't given them enough kicks. We had given them a few token kicks on Thursday night, maybe Tuesday night. But we had never really taken those players and just drilled balls at them during practice, because they're all receivers or running backs or DBs. They're working on other things. And sometimes you got to just pull kids out of a drill. You got to pull them out, because is that special team not a big deal when you need it? Yeah, it is. So I think we learned a real hard lesson there, that it isn't just about where do you line up. It's about how do you execute what it's going to take to perform from that alignment. So we try to bring all those special situations up, and you never have enough time. I mean, you just don't. But you should cover them to the point where a player can go out there and not be in the dark about what to do. So that's how we approach it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think you always have to make sure they understand what they're supposed to do. You got to do the best, like you said, to give them as many reps as you can. But again, these don't happen all the time. So I think trying to keep it fresh in their mind certainly is a good point there. Coach, I appreciate your time here in a game week. Again, congratulations to you and the Valley Tigers here on being recognized as our National Coach of the Week. And obviously that has to do with your staff and your players as well. So congratulations to them. And best of luck to you and the Tigers here the rest of 2025.
Thanks for having me on, Keith. As always, it's good to talk to you. Like I told you before we went on, I enjoy your podcast. And it's an example of what we have available today as coaches that we never had 20 years ago. I mean, there's a lot of content out there, and you can spend as much or as little time, but the good stuff is what you want to find. And I really like what you do with your guests, and I always learn something.
I appreciate that, Coach. Thank you.
You bet, Keith.
That wraps up this week's National Coach of the Week, presented by Modern Football Technology. Congratulations again to Coach Gary Swenson and Valley High School. Be sure to follow along each week as we highlight coaches making a difference on and off the field. For more tools that give your staff the in-game analytics edge, visit modernfootball.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.